He has supported and voted for $3 trillion of increased debt, and he's tripled the national deficit in the time that he's been in Washington. Folks, that's not my record. I have a very different fiscal record. He's voted for an $850 billion Wall Street bailout. He voted to deregulate Wall Street, to bail out Wall Street, and ever since the bailout, he has done nothing to try to prevent another one. He's had 4 different opportunities to do so, and he said no every time. This is an election about a choice, and I think you've got an opportunity to elect a mayor who's had real success here in the Lehigh Valley, who's going to roll up his sleeves and go to work in Washington, or we can support the same failed economic policies that got us here in the first place. But finally, I want to talk a bit about Israel. I know it's going to be an important topic for our discussion this evening. I have had the honor and the privilege to visit Israel. I visited Israel back in May of 2006 under the auspices of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I met a lot of mayors in Israel. I spent a lot of time with the mayor of Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, etc. Met a lot of great people in Israel. I've met with military leaders in Israel. I've met with the foreign minister of Israel and the prime minister at the time, Olmert. I visited the Golan Heights and understood very clearly how important that area is strategically for Israel's ability to protect and defend itself. But perhaps the most impactful part of my visit to Israel was the evening that I spent in a kibbutz on the border of Lebanon. It was a relatively peaceful time in Israel's history, May of 2006. But even then, they were concerned about sniper fire from the Hezbollah installations across the ridge. Unfortunately, we had a great night of lots of good food, lots of good music, and a lot of great hospitality in this particular kibbutz. And it was, I was very saddened to be made aware of the fact that just 2 months later, when the war between Israel and Lebanon broke out, it was this particular settlement, literally in the shadows of those Hezbollah installations, that suffered from the bombings. And it was those same folks that were such great hosts to me that suffered a lot of casualties and a lot of deaths. And it brought to me, in a very real sense, of the understanding and the awareness of the pressures that the folks in Israel face every day. But despite those pressures, they have persevered and they have thrived. And we need to always stand with Israel. And I will let you know tonight that as a member of Congress, I will always look to strengthen and protect the very unique relationship between the United States and Israel. I appreciate the opportunity to speak more about that topic and many others this evening. And again, appreciate you all being here to talk about the election come November. Thank you.
Well, first, thanks to the Jewish Community Center and to the Jewish Federation of Lehigh Valley for inviting me here tonight, and thanks to my opponent, John Callahan, for being here for this important discussion. And thanks most of all to you for coming out tonight. We have a lot of competition. The buildings and Eagles 807 and 817 respectively, so don't rush to the exits. But we do have some very serious issues in this country, and we need serious leadership. You know, I'm proud of the work that I've done over the past 5.5 years in Congress. I devoted my life to this. After my family, this is the greatest responsibility I've ever had, and I enjoy it. But I certainly am deeply concerned about the direction of this country. We're on the wrong track for a whole variety of reasons. Today, we have one overwhelming domestic issue, and that is jobs. On Friday, we saw the most recent announcement, 95,000 jobs lost, the unemployment rate stubbornly at 9.6%, and that is simply unacceptable. I believe this massive expansion of the federal government over the past few years is slowing down and impeding economic growth and an economic recovery. I've stood firmly against these job-killing taxes, these mandates, unsustainable mandates on individuals and small businesses over these past few years. And I consistently supported an economic environment that empowers entrepreneurs and small business people to invest. We need to create an environment. Mayors don't create jobs. They don't create jobs. People in business create jobs. Individuals create jobs. They need our help. And frankly, Washington has gotten in the way. And this is where my opponent and I have a big difference of opinion. John Callahan believes in government first. Every criticism he levels against me has the same underlying theme. He thinks government isn't big enough. He thinks government doesn't take enough of your money. and he doesn't think government spends enough money. That is his record in Bethlehem, and that will be his plan for Washington. Listen closely to what John says tonight, and you'll hear that theme time and time again. I've always said that election is a choice, not among parties, but among candidates. But I also believe this election is a referendum. In this case, on the Obama administration and the Pelosi Congress's failed leadership. You know, I've known John Callahan for many years, and I'm glad to have worked with him on several local issues where I could be of assistance. But John and I do have philosophical differences on this country's direction, and we're going to talk about them tonight. You know, John started his campaign last year by complaining that I said no to the Washington agenda. Now he wants to blame me for the very agenda I have opposed and that he has supported or avoided taking positions on. To create jobs, I'm on the side of assuring small businesses that tax rates will remain steady. They need certainty. That will rein in spending and cut it where we can. And that will keep the federal government to a more limited role in our lives. Federal spending at 25% of our economy is unacceptable. This is really not, this is foreign to our recent history, where federal spending has been closer to 21% of our total economy. You know, John believes in the government stimulus bill that will cost more than $1 trillion in borrowed money when it's all said and done. But all it's produced so far is failure. It has not worked. Dr. Roman, the President's economic advisor, told us if we passed a stimulus, unemployment would not go over 8%. It has been over 9.5% for many, many months, over a year. No, and apparently no one in sight. And now we've just learned of stimulus dollars going to China for clean energy initiatives, borrowing money from China, and end up sending money to China for clean energy initiatives, and waste, fraud, and abuse, like stimulus checks going to dead people. American businesses are afraid to invest, and much of that fear and uncertainty is caused by this government and its policies. Trillions of dollars is sitting on the sideline. And I'm not just talking about the major corporations. I'm talking about small and mid-sized businesses that have money are afraid. They're fearful of the impending tax hike, the health care mandates that they know are coming, the increased energy costs that have been promised to them with this very aggressive EPA and the cap-and-trade regime. They know something is coming, more taxes, more spending, more government. It's leading to economic uncertainty, and it's leaving chaos in its wake. It's time we say no to this. And John and I have a difference of opinion on health care. I have a list of true reforms that will help us lower costs for the American people. I've gone over those many times over the course of this campaign. John, on the other hand, he sided with a $2.6 trillion health care takeover, with $500 billion in job-killing taxes and tax increases. There are 20 tax increases in that health care law, innumerable mandates on individuals and small businesses, and $500 billion in Medicare cuts to pay for a new entitlement program. And I can assure you, senior citizens are going to be impacted negatively by those Medicare cuts. Many of them will not be able to keep the coverage that they have. I'd also like to talk a little bit tonight, too, about this Middle Eastern discussion. I look forward to that discussion. I also want to talk about the terrorist threat, Afghanistan, and America's special relationship with our very dear friend and ally, Israel. It's a special relationship, and I cherish it. I, too, have visited Israel on 2 separate occasions.